Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 1804 Show, Chapter 2. I'm your host, Dollar Will, and this is another episode of 1804 History. And before I start, like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, the 1804 Show, Chapter 2. Now let's get it. So tonight, I'm going to talk about the lynching of Michael Donald, who was murdered and lynched in Mobile, Alabama, August 21st, 1981. So this year marks the 42nd anniversary of that tragic event. And I know I already talked about it, but I didn't like how I did it. So I wanted to do it again and stuff like that because I was still finding myself, still trying to find my swag and just my whole formula. So since I conquered that, I wanted to do it again because it's just really important that we keep those in remembrance. And I just feel like when I do these stories and stuff like that, I give an opportunity to tell the stories of the victims who went through horror and terror. And it just these days, people don't really know, and those who don't care about Black history just don't really understand the conditions and don't understand the unfairness that we faced amongst people. But yet we still undefeated. We still the shit. And I feel like it's my responsibility to keep these people memories alive and legacies alive. And and again, he was only 19 years old. And that year he would have been 20 years old. So I had the pleasure of finding some videos for you guys today because I didn't want to read a whole bunch of stuff. I wanted to do it differently from the people that was there and the people that knew him and stuff like that. So I wanted to allow you guys to watch this video, then I'll come back with my commentary. Turn this around.
1881, the unraveling began.
Turn this up a little bit.
Leaders of the Mobile, Alabama chapter of the UKA were enraged after the court case of a black man accused in the murder of a white police officer ended in a mistrial. Benny Hayes, the titan of UKA Unit 900, was quoted as saying, "If a black man can get away with killing a white man, we ought to be able to get away with killing a black man." Last night, two young Klansmen, 17-year-old Tiger Knowles and 26-year-old Henry Hayes, went looking for a black victim. Any black victim. While cruising the streets of Mobile, they found 19-year-old Michael Donald. The young man was kidnapped and driven to a desolate spot in the woods.
Up against either side of his head, pulled on that rope to let any breath left in him. And then to make sure he was dead, they took a razor knife and slit his throat, threw him in the trunk of the car, carried him back over and hung him from a tree in Mobile. It was a lynching of its, classic sense.
The crime shocked the community. The barbaric murder of this innocent young man was as vicious, devious, as hideous as any in the long history of the Ku Klux Klan. Based on Tiger Knowles' confession, he and his accomplice were convicted of murder. To most, it appeared the case was closed. Morris Dees felt differently. He encouraged the victim's mother, Beulah May Donald, to file a civil lawsuit against the United Klans of America. Because UKA leaders encouraged violent and murderous acts, Dees theorized the Klan organization was also liable. Mrs. Donald agreed to the lawsuit. The 1987 trial lasted but 4 days. Several Klansmen testified they had been directed to commit acts of harassment and intimidation. Tiger Knowles described the murder of Michael Donald and told how the Klan had encouraged him to commit acts of violence. As he stepped down from the stand, the judge allowed the Klansmen to address the court.
Then he turned to Mrs. Donald and spoke her name, and he began to cry, and his lips quivered, and he started sobbing, and said, basically, he begged her forgiveness for what he'd done to her son Michael. And she just kind of rocked back in her chair and looked at him there, and you know, it was kind of a low whisper. She said to him in front of that jury, she said, you know, I've already forgiven you. And it was a pretty powerful moment, as you can imagine, in that courtroom. It wasn't a dry eye, I promise you, at our counsel table and in that jury box, and I saw that old judge brush back a tear.
The jury returned after just 4 hours of deliberation and announced a stunning $7 billion verdict against the United Klans of America. The most durable of all Klan groups had been destroyed by a Southern jury.
The Klan really just had a national headquarters, 7,000 square foot building and 10 acres of land, and that's about it. And that's what Mrs. Donald got. A black woman ended up with a deed to probably the most dangerous and violent Klan organization in modern history.
My acoustic, futuristic, linguistic, rap fabric is a mix of avid, stand-stick, English italics, I talk quick. Y'all bitches can't drop to hear my shit release spit. But love should I release hits? We travel through bodies like blood vessels. When y'all trap niggas try to wrestle the beer top of this pedestal. Slave doctrine, monoption, lyrical toxin, I'm chest boxing. Walls is rushing through like a herd of angry oxen. Data for this pussy cat niggas is dead weight. Concentrate my murder rate, accelerate, terminating, so spoiling like coke in the 40, knock, I shot the whole block. Electricity flows randomly, internally, inside of me like Tony Stark's teeth. I create excellency, 160 called LOUNG assist me. Copy wardrobe is keyboard properly, for slang hall, vocabulary, e-ball, Frankenstein mind. Rewind for a minute while I kick down your track, stupid. I move quick, shit is accurate. Kojak tactics, chaos, killer B-Mines, high society, blackness, spread the rumor. A lyrical Marvel, making more cream than Carvel. The niggas best to hold your weight like barbell. So my verbal sports for school, through this don't play truant. I'm most food and fruitful, I'm under influence of alcohol and tobacco, mushrooms imported from Morocco. Bellies on the rocks, in a 40 sack of Choco. The 40 tells a gold around the fist, bitch, I call. Lyrics on the paper so my family won't starve. Deep in the shit, I stay highly involved. Never conceded, never been beaten. Got trapped in many wars, but not yet retreated. My style, you need it. I just like to read it. It's all fresh lyric, no, nothing gets you beat it. I came a long way, and guess what? I succeeded. I conquered my opponent and feed him baby food because he's childish and illiterate. The year has been rude to the thoughts and year me. ORIG. We spawned to the war with the killer B-law. Scavenger nigga, you just swear. I pour on the shit. My head can't digest it. Stop drinking all that water, let's take it to the land. So I can Godzilla up your shit, Mr. Tiny Tin Man. Niggas be tripping up my PE star. When I start to come down on your fucking ass and try to chop shit on up. Play my shit like Parks, bitch. I'm that legendary microphone's weaponry. The secondary bitch ass very scary cat won't survive this verbal attack. You think your slang can match Wu-Tang and family now cypher. You fake drums. You should be stung with your tongue. While you love guns punch. We pleasure to the grudge. Deeper to the dark dungeon. Becoming one with 9 lines combined. The four of wildest when I force to summon. I be decoding mathematical combinations. Alone with mysteries of blank. You feel my soul already glowing. Just then, I came on the stage like wind. No slang in your face and it touched your skin. You felt chilly, just like you smoked a bag of illy. You need a coat just to protect your throat. 2 pairs of socks get them cold like ice rock. Tap lip duds can't fuck with the chatterbox. Cherry heads fill the trap of the ops. Shaolin niggas all fuck with one block. They forgot about the big cat slay murderer. Down with the union, big street slay murderer. Terrorizing, move, I'm tranquilizing. Fast get away with the slow speed driving. 2 pounds an hour, capping through with the power. Somebody blow something up.
The jury's verdict in Mobile, Alabama is being viewed today as a possible new weapon against groups that preach hate and members who kill. Bruce Hall reports on crime, punishment, and the Klan.
Civil rights leaders believe that a $7 million verdict for the mother of a murdered Alabama black teenager may douse the flames of the United Klans of America, the largest and historically the most violent of the Klan groups.
I think it deals a devastating blow because it will strip them of all their financial assets.
The case began when 19-year-old Michael Donald was abducted and lynched in Mobile in 1981, according to court testimony, to, quote, show Klan strength in Alabama and intimidate blacks. 2 Klansmen were convicted, and this civil suit was designed to make the Klan pay for its members' actions.
I don't have any comment.
Authorities say Mrs. Donald may never collect all of the money, but the Klan headquarters building is expected to be turned over to her and the NAACP. Civil rights groups and the Klan disagree on the impact of the case.
What doesn't destroy us makes us stronger. And I believe that these type of attacks in many ways will strengthen our movement.
I think it will be a tremendous deterrent to organized hate group violence in America.
Civil rights attorneys say they hope that's true. Meanwhile, Klan groups continue to plan for more marches this spring. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Atlanta.
An incurable disease, a commonly used one.
This is the CBS Morning News. Good morning, I'm Forrest Sawyer.
And I'm Faith Daniels. It's Friday, February 13th.
At the top of the news this morning, the Ku Klux Klan may be a broken organization. A landmark federal court verdict was reached in Mobile, Alabama last night. An all-white jury hit the Klan with $7 million in damages, an award that may be big enough to send the white racist group into bankruptcy. The case grew out of the murder of a 19-year-old black man half a dozen years ago. Michael Donald was beaten, strangled, and his body hanged from a tree. 2 men were convicted of murder, and the money goes to the victim's mother.
So I didn't want it to happen to nobody else's child like it has mine. You don't know the agony it is until you go through it.
Mrs. Donald's attorney also spoke to reporters after the $7 million was awarded to her.
The trail of violence and bombings and killings of the United Klan stretched the entire Southeast. This is a very vicious Klan group, and I hope the decision of this jury today will put it out of business.
As part of the settlement, it is reported that the NAACP will get possession of the headquarters of the Klan.
It's 34 minutes after the hour. Former Ku Klux Klansman Henry Hayes was executed in Alabama early today for lynching a black teenager. The last time that a white person was executed for murdering a black person in Alabama was 84 years ago in 1913. Jacqueline Adams has the story.
42-year-old Henry Hayes died in Alabama's electric chair early this morning after refusing a last meal. The day before his execution, Hayes said he was at peace, but still frightened.
I'm still scared to death. Don't get me wrong. I'm still petrified. I mean, when you see 10 inch flames shoot out of a guy's head in Florida, or even with the accidents that has taken place with our own elected sheriff.
Hayes was convicted in the 1981 murder of 19-year-old Michael Donald. Hayes claimed he was innocent and blamed other members of the Klan. Donald was beaten and lynched, his body found hanging in a tree in Mobile, Alabama. Prosecutors say the murder was ordered by the Klan after a Mobile jury deadlocked in the trial of a black man charged with killing a white police officer. An accomplice testified that he and Hayes picked Donald at random and tortured him before the lynching. Donald's brother says Hayes' execution was justified.
This guy only had numbers of years to realize to this point what's been happening here. He had plenty of opportunities to correct himself, but he's a diehard Klansman.
The lynching of Michael Donald brought financial ruin to the United Klans of America. The Klan was hit with a $7 million wrongful death verdict in a case brought by Donald's mother. The Klan didn't have the money and wound up having to sign over its Tuscaloosa building to her. Okay.
Thanks, Jackie.
Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. Like, my thoughts was just pretty much just like, how could you, do that to an innocent person? All because you feel like a black man got away with killing a white police officer. And, I tell everyone that this is not a game out here. You got demons walking among us, and you may have plans to go out and have fun or go to the club and this and that, but you just don't know what can happen at any particular moment. So this is why you have to be aware of your surroundings. And the reasoning that he was outside was his sister sent him to the store to go get some cigarettes. And that night, all he wanted to do was watch the basketball game, and his life was taken. That just lets you know, they had to gang up on him. They couldn't fight him one on one. And this is how they always did it. They always had to gang up on us. And they couldn't fight him head on. What lured him to the truck was the fact that he was a kind-hearted person. And they came to him just looking for anybody who was African American so they can kill a black man. He had no idea that he was going to make history like that. And you just don't know what can happen. And that's why I just be careful who I'm around, what I do, who I associate with, and this and that, because you just never know what can possibly happen. So it's just unfortunate because he would have been maybe in his 50s by now. No, 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 no. He would have been 70. Yeah, 72 years old if he would have still been here. And again, all he wanted to do was watch the basketball game, and he was abducted. And he fought for his life. He ran because they took him to the countryside, and he ran. And they chased him down, and they caught him, and they took a tree limb, and they beat him to death over 100 times. And just to make sure he was dead, they took a knife and slit his throat 3 times. And they picked his body up and brought him back. And they hung him from that tree. and a tree that still resides to this day. They actually have his marker because they made the crime scene a city landmark, and they placed the landmark in front of the tree where his body was found. And I tell you that it's just really hard to just process that. How could be anyone, how could anyone be that evil to the point that you would do all that? And just the fact that the accomplice, because Henry Hayes was the mastermind, but Tiger Knowles was the accomplice, and how the accomplice made a deal with the district attorney saying that he would testify against Henry Hayes for a lighter sentence, even though he was at first given life in prison with the possibility of parole, which he's out now because he cooperated with authorities and was able to, get let go back in 2010. But during a serial trial, just the fact that he started crying and started to ask forgiveness to his mother, and for her to say, "I have already forgiven you," took a lot of strength, took a lot of courage for her to do that, because I couldn't imagine how I would feel if you kill my child and you ask me for forgiveness after you took my child's life for no reason because he was black. And I'm a different breed. I'm cut from a different cloth. I'm not the type to just forgive people, especially for that. I don't know if I could have done that. I don't knock anybody who have the ability to forgive people, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, you know? But the sick part about all of this is that you took them back to a black neighborhood that was owned by Benny Hayes, the father of Henry Hayes. And Henry Hayes had the nerve to say, "What a beautiful sight." And they came to the crime scene. You know what I'm saying? They came to the lynching to watch people react to the horror of all of that. And just the fact that they say the last public lynching of the United States, but this still goes on to this day. Knowing the history of the South and having like over 400, well, not 400, sorry, 4,000 recorded lynchings in the South alone, from the Reconstruction era to the Civil Rights era, recorded 4,000 lynchings in the South alone. And that's just the ones that we know about. But the ones that we don't know about could be more. The numbers can be staggering, but it just lets you know, just whenever we get killed, or whenever we're victims, it's this character assassination attempt. Because at first, the city of Mobile, Alabama wasn't going to investigate it because they was painting Michael as this gang member, this drug dealer, and this and that. Like he deserved that. Like he deserved to be killed. But black men can't be victims. Even if we're victims, we had to done something. We deserve that, and then we get slandered. We get a smear campaign, and it's just when you have outlived certain ages, you begin to realize just that person was a child. That person was a kid, 19 years old. I remember back when I was 19, that was so long ago, 14 years ago, pretty much. So that just lets me know just how dirty and how evil these two gentlemen was. And I'm not even gonna call them gentlemen. I'm gonna call them terrorists, because that's exactly what they is. Because this was a terrorist act, and it just really make you appreciative. Just no matter how horrible or how bad life is, he was able to outlive a lot of people, depending on your age group right now. But he was just a freshman in college at this time and had a whole future ahead of him. And that future and that goal, that life was cut short because of two terrorists. And that just lets you know just how evil people can be. And but his mother, that just shows you the love of a black mother, like just a mother, period. Because she knew something happened to him. She didn't know what it was, but she couldn't sleep that night. She had dreams of seeing this great casket, and she didn't know who was in the casket, but she saw a casket in her dream, and it kept coming recurrently. And she just was like, it's probably nothing, because she knew her son and how good he was. And yeah, just it's sad, just when you hear stories about this and you see how people just totally neglect people who fell victim to such heinous acts and terroristic acts of murder, and just the fact like it wasn't that long ago, because I was born 8 years after all of this happened. So this just really lets you know, just like, damn, it's crazy. It really wasn't that long ago, and it's still going on today. But yet, these type of murders are declared suicides. They're not considered homicides, especially when they happen to us, because we ain't hanging ourselves from no damn trees. That's the least or the last thing we would do, because we know the history, we know the stigma of that. So it's just terrifying knowing that this still occurred today, and how if one of us went out like that, nobody will take it seriously enough to investigate our tragic murder, our untimely deaths, you know what I'm saying? So we just have to really realize who we dealing with and what's going on around us. But his mother ended up getting $7 million out of the UKA, even though they didn't have $7 million. They was forced to give up their assets and their properties, and checks was garnished, wages, so they can pay Beulah McDonald. And sometimes a win isn't always a win, but she even said, "I just wanted my son. I don't care about money because it's not going to bring my son back." And that was really profound to me because we so quick to take the check. Money isn't going to bring a life back, and we need to understand that sometimes because people take the check, the hush up money, or they take damages or anything. Because most cases we are worth more dead than we ever was alive. But I do appreciate Mr. Moore's deeds who convinced her to do that. And I also think that it was just, for his own reasons and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, this was the same Klan group that bombed the four little girls in Birmingham of 1963. The 16th Street Baptist Church was the same Klan group that did this. So that was the karma at the end of the day. You can't keep doing evil and hellacious shit and don't expect anything bad to happen to you. So more people were arrested, tried for this crime, and one person who gave them the rope was sentenced to life in prison. And the father of Henry Hayes ended up dying before his second trial because the first trial was a hung jury. So he died from a heart attack after the first the first trial, excuse me. So you just really sit back and really think about, why there's racism and why there's so much hate, especially when you're, living amongst black people and you hate them. It don't make sense. Why be a landlord of an apartment building or apartment complex when you racist? It don't even make any sense. But it's just the fact that he sabotaged his own son. It just shows you how evil this man was to put that battery in his son's back. He was a horrible man, horrible father, and I hope he rot in hell. And I said it, yup. And I'm not apologizing either. But it's just despicable. Just knowing that this kid, Michael Donald, didn't get the opportunities or didn't get the joy of getting older. He didn't get the opportunity to get married, have children. He was a kid. He was young. He didn't deserve any of that. Or anyone who ever met their fate through lynching. No one deserves the type of brutality. And just hearing stories like this is just pisses me off on how we do each other, how we kill each other. And, I don't do nothing. I mind my own business. I live my life. And I don't know anyone who could just sit back and hate somebody that much to do something like that. But it's a damn shame. But his mother was able to get justice for her son, and she passed away a year later after that verdict. And 25 years later, he was given a street named after him and a marker again at the tree that he was lynched. That makes me like sick, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get why I put in a marker by the tree or the front of the tree that he was lynched on. I think that tree should have been cut down or bulldozed, whatever. That tree shouldn't be standing. And that's my opinion on that. Like, don't keep something that opens wounds, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just wanted to come on here and tell that story again and just really share my thoughts because this really messed me up all day. This really will like change your entire mood. But yeah, that's the end of this episode. I appreciate everyone who tuned in. Appreciate everyone who supports me. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for more future shows and episodes to come. And I will see y'all later. Thank y'all and have a good night. Peace.